Welcome to the Bookroom Duo, where we explore a variety of books so you can find your next read. Let's get started. Today we're taking a deep dive into The Women of Tehran. Have you had a chance to crack it open yet?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a captivating story about two girls,
Yeah.
Ellie and Homa, and their lifelong friendship set against the backdrop of 1950s Iran.
It's a fascinating exploration of female friendship for sure, but what struck me was how the novel goes beyond a simple coming-of-age story. It weaves together their personal journeys with the larger historical and political shifts happening in Iran at the time.
Right, like their childhood in Tehran. We see these contrasting backgrounds right away. Elahi is grieving the loss of her father and finds comfort in Homa's family. You almost get a sense of longing from Elahi, wishing for that same warmth and connection.
That longing really sets the stage for their complex dynamic. Think about their first meeting. Homa invites Ilahe to play hopscotch, but Ilahe initially hesitates. It's a small detail, but it foreshadows how Ilahe often feels drawn to Homa's energy,
Yeah.
but also a bit intimidated by it.
And it makes that cave-like kitchen in Homa's home even more symbolic, don't you think? It's not just a place to cook. It represents the heart of the family, that sense of belonging that Elahi craves.
Exactly. And that scene where they skip school to go to the Grand Bazaar, it's not just a childish adventure. It highlights their shared dreams of becoming lawyers, a profession typically dominated by men at the time. It shows their early ambition and desire to break free from societal expectations.
Okay, but as they get older, their paths start to diverge. Elahi moves uptown with her mother and uncle, and suddenly there's this physical and emotional distance between them.
It's interesting how the novel uses those external changes, different schools, social circles, to reflect the internal shifts in their friendship. The class disparities of that era become a tangible barrier between them.
And then there's that bombshell Elahi witnessing her mother's affair with her uncle. That betrayal really shakes her to the core.
That's a pivotal moment. It exposes her to the complexities of adult relationships, and I think it influences her later choices, her desire for stability, even at the cost of her own desires. Did you find yourself questioning her actions later on, knowing this backstory?
Totally. And it makes their unexpected reunion at Reza Shah Kabir High School even more charged. Here they are, thrown back together in this new environment, but it's not a smooth reunion. Elahi is almost reluctant to acknowledge Homa, like she's ashamed of their connection.
It's as if she's trying to fit into this new sophisticated world, and Homa represents a part of her past she wants to leave behind. That tension is so palpable in their awkward lunch at Cafe Andre. Homa is thrilled, but Elahe is clearly uncomfortable.
And it's not just about social awkwardness, is it?
Right.
It highlights how their values are starting to clash. Homa is still fiercely idealistic, passionate about becoming a lawyer and fighting for women's rights.
Exactly. It's like she's become even more committed to social justice. Meanwhile, Elahe is increasingly preoccupied with fitting in with romance. She meets Mehrdad at Cafe Andre, and he completely consumes her thoughts. It makes you wonder if this shift in Elahe's priorities is a direct response to the instability she experienced in her own family.
That's an interesting point. It's like she's seeking order and security in this new relationship, while Homa is embracing chaos and fighting for change.
And that contrast is so evident in their interactions. Remember that hiking trip to Darband? It's a brief return to their childhood bond, connecting with nature, sharing dreams. Homa wants more of these adventures, but Elahe is already drifting away.
Then there's that cringeworthy scene at the tea house where Homa's unrefined manners embarrass Elahi in front of Mehrdad and his friends. I felt so much secondhand embarrassment reading that.
But it's not just about manners, right? It's a
Yeah.
clash of worlds of social expectations. It reveals how deeply Elahe has internalized these societal norms and how those norms are now driving a wedge between her and Homa. What resonated with you about that scene?
For me, it highlighted the pressures women face to conform, especially in those social circles. It made me question how much of Elahi's behavior was driven by genuine preference and how much was about seeking approval from others.
It's a great example of how Kamali uses these seemingly small moments to reveal larger truths about society and the complexities of female relationships. And this tension only intensifies as the political climate in Iran becomes increasingly volatile.
And then, of course, the turning point, Homa's arrest. It's a stark reminder of the political realities of the time and the risks associated with speaking out against the regime. But it also becomes the catalyst for Elahi's reckoning with her own role in their fractured friendship.
We'll delve into that more in the next part of our deep dive, but it's worth pondering how that event becomes the defining moment that shapes their futures both individually and as friends. Picking up where we left off, Homa's arrest becomes this pivotal moment that sends shockwaves through their lives. Elahe is left grappling with guilt and regret, realizing her own complicity in what happened. The novel doesn't shy away from exposing her flaws, her jealousy, her insecurity, her silence when Homa needed her most.
It's heartbreaking to witness, especially knowing how fiercely loyal Homa has always been to Elahe. It makes you question how much of Elahe's behavior was influenced by the societal pressures we discussed earlier. The need to conform, to fit in, even if it means sacrificing your own values.
It's a complex situation with no easy answers. On the one hand, we see Elahe's vulnerability, her fear of jeopardizing her own position in this new social circle, but it also raises questions about the limits of loyalty and the courage it takes to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. What are your thoughts on that?
It's easy to judge Elahe, but I think Kamali does a great job of showing us the internal struggle she's facing. She's torn between her desire for security and acceptance and the nagging feeling that she's betrayed her friend.
Exactly. And it's this internal conflict that drives her subsequent choices. She marries Mehrdad and they move to New York, seemingly escaping the turmoil of Iran. But even in this new life of privilege and material comfort, she can't outrun the consequences of her past.
She's haunted by homesickness and the weight of her decisions. It's interesting how the novel contrasts her seemingly perfect life in America with the lingering sense of emptiness she feels. It's like she's traded one form of captivity for another.
Meanwhile, Homa demonstrates remarkable resilience. She rebuilds her life after prison, marrying Abdul and becoming a mother. But the scars of her ordeal remain. And even though they're on separate continents, the invisible threads of their shared past continue to bind them.
And then we have that brief but poignant reunion at the bazaar years later. It's such a loaded encounter. Homa introduces her daughter Bahar, and it's almost like she's presenting a piece of herself that Elahe missed out on.
That scene is so beautifully written. It's filled with unspoken emotions, the weight of the past, and a flicker of hope for the future. The introduction of Bahar signals a new chapter in their story, suggesting that their connection might be passed down to a new generation. Did you sense that shift too?
Absolutely. And when Bahar arrives in New York, sent by Homa to escape the war-torn Iran, it feels like history's repeating itself. But this time the roles are reversed. Elahe becomes a surrogate mother figure to Bahar, trying to make amends for the past by providing her with the stability and opportunities she herself craved.
I found it fascinating how Bahar, caught between two cultures and two very different mothers, becomes the catalyst for their final confrontation. She represents a bridge between their past and present, forcing them to face the truth they've both been avoiding.
That confrontation at the hospital is so raw and emotional. Elahe finally confesses her role in Homa's arrest, laying bare the guilt she's carried for years.
And Homa's response, her decision to forgive, is nothing short of extraordinary. It speaks volumes about her character, her strength, and her unwavering belief in the power of their bond to transcend even the most painful betrayals.
It's a powerful reminder that forgiveness isn't about condoning or forgetting. It's about choosing to release the burden of anger and resentment so that healing can begin. But it also raises questions about the complexities of their relationship. Can true reconciliation occur without full accountability?
That's a thought-provoking question, and one that the novel leaves open for interpretation. The ending doesn't offer easy answers or tie things up neatly in a bow. Instead, it jumps to the present day with Homa back in Iran, still fighting for women's rights despite the risks.
It's a testament to her unwavering spirit, her resilience in the face of adversity. And we get these poignant excerpts from the letter she writes to her granddaughter Lily, sharing her life lessons and her hopes for the future.
That letter is like a distillation of her wisdom, a testament to the power of love and hope to endure even in the darkest of times. It speaks to the enduring strength of women, particularly in a society where their voices are often silenced or marginalized.
She expresses this beautiful wish for Lily to experience moments of tenderness that outweigh the harsh realities of the world. It's both heartbreaking and inspiring.
It's a reminder that even in the midst of political turmoil and personal struggles, there's always a place for hope, for connection, for the simple joys that make life worth living.
And speaking of hope, we see that reflected in Bahar as well. Despite the challenges she faced adjusting to a new life in America and the weight of her parents' past, she emerges as a strong, independent young woman. It's like she embodies the best of both Elahe and Homa.
I think Bahar's journey is a testament to the lasting impact of their friendship. It shows how even a complicated, flawed relationship can shape a new generation, inspiring them to be more resilient, more compassionate, more determined to make a difference in the world.
But even with Bahar's success, there's this lingering question about Elahe and Homa's relationship. Has it truly healed, or are there still cracks beneath the surface? We see Homa back in Iran, continuing her fight for justice, while Elahe remains in America, seemingly content with her life of comfort and privilege.
It makes you wonder if their paths, once so intertwined, are now destined to remain forever parallel.
And that leads us to a bigger question. Can forgiveness truly erase the past? Or does it simply create a new layer of complexity in a relationship that has already endured so much?
It's a question that resonates beyond the pages of the novel, prompting us to consider our own relationships, our own experiences with forgiveness and reconciliation. And perhaps it's a question with no easy answers, one that we each have to grapple with in our own lives. It's interesting you bring up the idea of parallel paths. It makes me think about the symbolism of the Homa bird, which is so central to the novel. The Homa bird, this mythical creature representing resilience and hope, never lands on Earth.
It's such a powerful metaphor, isn't it? Like Homa herself, who is constantly striving for something more, refusing to be bound by limitations.
Exactly. And it makes me wonder if Elahe, despite her material comfort and newfound stability, will ever truly find that same sense of purpose, that unwavering commitment to something bigger than herself.
That's a great point. It's like she's still searching for that solid ground while Homa has always been soaring above it all.
And it ties back to that lingering question about forgiveness. Perhaps true forgiveness, the kind that allows for genuine reconciliation, requires not just an apology, but also a fundamental shift in perspective, a willingness to meet on that higher ground.
It makes me think about their contrasting approaches to life. Homa embraces the chaos, the uncertainty, the fight for justice, while Elahe seeks safety and control. Maybe those two approaches can coexist, but it requires a level of understanding and acceptance that they haven't quite reached yet.
What stood out to you most about their individual journeys?
I think it's the way Kamali portrays the complexities of female ambition. Both Elahe and Homa have dreams, but those dreams are shaped by societal expectations, cultural norms, and their own personal experiences.
That's so true. And it makes you think about how those external forces can both propel and constrain women, pushing them in certain directions while also limiting their choices.
Like Homa's unwavering pursuit of Loa, it's seen as rebellious, even dangerous in the context of Iranian society at the time. And Elahe's ambition, initially focused on becoming a lawyer as well, seems to shift towards finding a suitable husband and creating a stable family life.
It highlights the difficult choices women often have to make, the compromises they're forced to consider, and it makes you wonder how much of their ambition is truly their own and how much is shaped by the expectations of others.
It's definitely not a simple question,
Hmm.
and it's one that I think many women, regardless of their cultural background, can relate to.
Absolutely, and it makes The Lion Women of Tehran not just a captivating story about friendship and resilience, but also a thought-provoking commentary on the challenges and triumphs of women navigating a world that's often defined by patriarchal structures.
We've talked a lot about the complexities of Elahe and Homa's friendship, but what about the broader message of the novel? What resonated with you most?
For me, it's the reminder that even in the midst of political upheaval, social unrest, and personal struggles, there's always a place for hope, for connection, for the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome adversity.
I agree, and I think that message is embodied not just in Homa's unwavering spirit, but also in Bahar's journey.
Hmm.
She represents a new generation, one that's inherited the strength and resilience of her mothers, but is also forging her own path, embracing new possibilities.
It's a hopeful ending, even if it's not a neat and tidy one. It leaves us with a sense that the fight for justice, for equality, for a more compassionate world will continue carried forward by those who have learned from the struggles and triumphs of those who came before them.
This deep dive has been such a rich exploration of friendship, resilience, and the complexities of Iranian culture and history. The Lion Women of Tehran is definitely a book that will stay with me, prompting me to reflect on my own relationships, my own values, and my own place in the world. What about you? What are you taking away from this experience?
I'm struck by the power of storytelling to transport us to different times and places, to immerse us in cultures and perspectives that might be unfamiliar, and to ultimately connect us through shared human experiences. The Lion Women of Tehran is a testament to that power, and it's a story I highly recommend to anyone looking for their next read.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge and spread the word.